Today I'm reacting to your Saturday night's main event hot takes. Hot takes is a weekly video series where I give you all a platform to be able to voice your thoughts, whether those are good thoughts, bad thoughts, or everything in between about the world of professional wrestling. So if you'd like to be featured in the next episode of Hot Takes, make sure that you're following me on X because I ask for your hot takes after every episode of Raw, SmackDown, and every single WWE Premium Live event. The next one is in 3 weeks. Both nights of SummerSlam are going to have their own individual episode of Hot Takes, so again, make sure that you're following me on X. As always, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, ring the bell for notifications. If you're a wrestling fan, I'm incredibly confident that you're going to fall in love with his YouTube channel because we always upload daily wrestling content. And if you do want more than just the daily wrestling content that you get here on the YouTube, come over to the Patreon, patreon.com/SantiZap, where you're going to get so much more extra content that we can never upload here because it would just get blocked due to copyright. So come check it out. Link in the description, link in the pinned comment. Let's get started. Let's see what you guys sent in. Gunther gave Goldberg possibly his longest match of his entire career at 14 minutes and 22 seconds, and it was actually low-key good. If there was anyone that was gonna give Goldberg a good final match, it was gonna be Gunther. This match was certainly way better than it had any right to be. Now, to clarify, that's not me saying that this is some sort of Omega Okada instant classic in the Tokyo Dome. This is not a match that you're gonna be praising for years to come because of its technical work, but this was certainly a match that knew exactly what it needed to be, and it did deliver on those things. I am curious how long this match was originally meant to be. Was it always going to be this long at 14 minutes and 22 seconds? Because this is actually Goldberg's third longest match of his entire career, and he did this deep into his 50s in his retirement match. I'm curious if the Seth Rollins injury made that match end significantly sooner than it was supposed to, and then it made this match go longer than it was originally planned. We'll never truly know, but it's something to be curious about nonetheless. But yeah, this match delivered on what it needed to deliver for it to be an entertaining affair. It was all about the build-up towards Gunther avoiding the spear until he eventually finally gets caught with the spear, a jackhammer, the big scary moment of, oh my God, is Goldberg actually going to win this? Only for Gunther to come out on top at the end. It was, again, everything that it needed to be. It didn't overstay its welcome either, which is kind of crazy to say at 14 minutes and 22 seconds, because I do feel like they earned their time out there. This is still going to be a forgettable match in my brain, but nonetheless, I was entertained in the process. So shout out to Goldberg and Gunther for going out there and keeping me entertained for that entire amount of time. That was significantly longer than I was expecting. I actually lost $50 on this because I bet that this match was going to be under 6 minutes. So yeah, I got completely screwed there. Saturday night's main event is like a side quest in an adventure game. Dude, Saturday night's main event is really, really frustrating because I thought that, yeah, this is a thing that I don't need to pay attention to. This is a side quest in a video game, like you're saying. This is a filler arc in anime. And then last month's Saturday night's main event happens, and that was actually a heater because things actually happened. Things actually developed on that show. We had the reveal of Bronson Reed. So it made me wonder, okay, maybe I do need to pay attention to Saturday night's main event. And then we get to this event, and it was once again just things that didn't overall impact much of anything at all. Yeah, I guess we got the build and the confirmation that we're getting Randy Orton and Jelly Roll teaming up together, but I don't know that that necessarily makes Saturday night's main event this must-watch affair. So yeah, I got this love-hate relationship as to whether or not Saturday night's main event is something that you need to pay attention to in order to be up to date with WWE storytelling or not, because sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. What a disgrace. They cut Goldberg's promo. It was his retirement match. Do better. This sucked. Everything about the way that they finished all of this was a complete mess. The match ends with 3 minutes left on the clock, and they go to commercial break for like 2 minutes, and then they come back and give Goldberg less than 60 seconds to address the fans, to soak it all in, to get his flowers. And not only do they not give him a lot of time, they literally cut the dude off mid-speech. I don't think that we need to be blaming WWE for that. I'm pretty sure that that's an NBC thing, but come on, what TV show, literally what TV show on NBC goes to commercial breaks with 3 minutes left? That's not a thing. So I don't know why they decided to do it with this one. I don't know where they maybe missed putting in a commercial break when they were supposed to during all of that, but I felt like they had plenty of time to put in commercial breaks. They certainly weren't afraid of putting in commercial breaks because just like a regular Saturday night's main event, there was plenty of them. But to put that ad break 3 minutes before the show ended, which had us come back and only gave the show 60 seconds to go off the air, was a joke, man. Like, to cut off Goldberg during his retirement speech really is disrespectful. Forget Logan Paul, forget John Cena, forget Gunther, forget Seth Rollins. This is the biggest bad guy in wrestling after the way the show ended. And here's the thing, it wasn't wasn't necessarily just NBC, at least I don't think, because I watched this on YouTube because I'm international. I don't have NBC. They also cut Goldberg's speech off on YouTube. They didn't need to do that. They absolutely could have kept the feed going on YouTube so that at the very least, a good portion of the fans could have heard Goldberg's speech, but they cut it off on NBC and they also cut it off on the WWE YouTube page. So maybe we need to point some fingers at WWE as well for this. I don't know. Something feels off. This is shaping out to be a really difficult year for WWE. I don't think that it's just something feels off. A lot feels off, Hardy. I know where your brain is at, especially when it comes to injuries and missing big names. We are now going to be missing Liv Morgan for a significant amount of time. We're missing Kevin Owens for an undetermined amount of time. It could be literal years. And Seth Rollins, at the making of this video, we don't really know what we're going to, in terms of missed time. I don't know what we're going to have there, but it is significant names that were all intertwined heavily in storytelling that have just poof been removed. And all of the sudden, with 3 weeks left to SummerSlam, we have to now pivot and find new things for a bunch of people to do because all of those people were feuding with many people at the same time. Seth Rollins and Liv Morgan especially. Liv Morgan was feuding with like 4 people and Seth Rollins was feuding with like 19, it felt. But aside from that, I do feel like the overall quality of the product in 2025 has been significantly less in terms of overall entertainment value compared to 2023, 2024, and the late half of 2022. And I think once the year is truly over, we'll be able to analyze this a little bit more, but I do think that part of the reason is going to be the fact that all of these shows are so close to one another, which means that a bunch of episodes are relegated to being, hey, this is a go home and a return after a PLE. Like so many of the episodes of Raw and SmackDown are either about to go home to a PLE or right after a PLE. And it makes it really difficult to really like focus in on storytelling to one major show because you're balancing so many different things. But yeah, something does definitely feel off. This is definitely a little bit of a down year in terms of the overall quality of the product with WWE specifically. Hear me out. Goldberg should have beaten Gunther and become World Heavyweight Champion one last time for shock value. Atlanta's crowd would have exploded with pops and make this match even better. Then the next day on Raw, he could have vacated the title by announcing his retirement. I personally don't like people vacating the championship on their retirement. I feel like everyone should go out on their back to put over the next person that's going to be there for week after week after week. And I don't think that Goldberg has that much aura that deserves him vacating the championship. I don't even think John Cena gets to vacate the championship. Cena should lose. Goldberg should lose had he won. I don't like the idea of these guys going out on top and not putting somebody over. You're on crack if you think Goldberg's match was better than Hangman's. Yeah, I guess I can kind of agree with that. Listen, that main event of All In was insane. It was also kind of funny that it was going on at the same time as Jimmy Uso versus Solo Sikoa, because I barely paid attention to that match because the insane main event of All In was happening, which clearly demonstrates how counterintuitive the counter programming was, because I was paying more attention to AEW All In than I was to Saturday night's main event when they were on at the same time. And here's the thing, somebody might look at this and say, why are we even comparing the products? How is it even fair to compare AEW's biggest show of the year to some WWE throwaway Saturday night's main event? Normally I would agree with you. Why would you compare those two? It doesn't really make a lot of sense. The reason why we can compare them is because WWE forced us to compare them, because they are the ones comparing themselves to AEW by counter-programming AEW. So it is just a complete role reversal and mind shift that actually made me and many other people pay attention to All In this weekend when they might not have otherwise. But yeah, dude, obviously the Hangman main event with Jon Moxley was better than Goldberg versus Gunther. And if it wasn't, that would have been embarrassing for AEW. Damn! Dude, this match is crazy. Oh my, dude, we are 2 minutes in.
Water veins tied to his neck. You are gonna die.
Oh! That was a sneak peek of this week's Wrestling is Cool Match Club, available exclusively over on patreon.com/SantiZap. This week we're looking at maybe one of the best matches I've ever seen, Rey Mysterio versus Psychosis in ECW 1995. The Falls Count Anywhere Hollywood ending match between Mariah May and Toni Storm. Braun Breaker versus Ilya Dragunov versus JD McDonough for the NXT Championship at Halloween Havoc 2022. And the ladder match between John Cena and Dolph Ziggler at TLC 2012. You'll be getting this, plus the Raw reviews, SmackDown reviews, the podcast 3 days early, plus a bunch of other series that are exclusively available to Patreon. So come check it out, patreon.com/SantiZap. There's a link in the description or a link in the pinned comment if you're interested in coming over. If you're already a patron, thank you so much for your support. It's because of you that I'm able to do what I do as often as I do it. But now let's get you back into the video. If Seth is really injured, what does that mean for the briefcase? That is one of the million-dollar questions right now. What happens to the Money in the Bank briefcase if Seth Rollins is out for an extended period of time? And the answer could be, I don't know, it could be a bunch of different things. It could be nothing happens. Seth Rollins continues to keep the briefcase because in storyline wise, you're allowed to keep the briefcase without using it for an entire year. So it's possible that he could just keep the damn thing. He could maybe give it to somebody in his group, maybe a Braun Breaker, Bronson Reed gets it, I don't know. Maybe WWE strips it away from him and they have another Money in the Bank ladder match. Honestly, I don't know what they can do with the briefcase. If it were up to me, and if Seth Rollins isn't going to be out for like a year or longer, then I'd say keep the damn thing and let's just really pay this off when you're ready to come back with a big shock cash in. A lot of people who said that Seth's knee injury was a work need to have some shame, to be honest, Santi, as if Seth was working it. We'd have known, but the look on his face and the doctors around him means that it's serious. And I hope to God it isn't an ACL or an MCL, as that would suck. Here is a tip from somebody that learned the hard way. When you see these injuries, I think the safest thing to assume is that is real. And let me explain that real quick. Look at the multiple outcomes that could happen. You could say, that of course is a work. And then if it ends up being a real injury, you're just going to feel like an asshole. But if you say, I think that was a real injury, but then you were worked, you can say, hey, that's a nice surprise. I got worked and I'm nice and surprised and now I'm still enjoying the show. I learned this the hard way with AJ Styles' injury with Carmelo Hayes, where I was certain it was a work and then he was out for a huge chunk of time and I felt like a giant douchebag for assuming it was fake. Trust me, it is a better feeling to know that you were worked versus feeling like a complete douchebag and belittling an injury and actually having it be real. Now, when it comes to this, I immediately thought it was real, mostly because of his instant reaction. Like that is just something that is like a human instinct to react as quickly as he did. But on top of that, just the way that the match ended as well, it just looks so, hey, let's just get out of here so that I can go get some help immediately. I thought it was real from the onset, but what's interesting is that the way he landed, he looked like he landed it perfectly fine. Some people are saying that he tweaked his knee during the Swanton version of it. Listen, I'm not a doctor. I don't know. All I hope is that Seth Rollins isn't out for a significant period of time because his injury really derails so many things. I'm a WWE guy and have been for some time. Never really paid attention to AEW, but the recent booking made me take a look at All In, and it just made watching Saturday night's main event unbearable for me. Last night's SmackDown and today's PLE made me question paying that much attention to the product. I don't think that you should question paying that much attention to the WWE. If that's what you like, then pay attention to it. Watch as much WWE as you want. If anything, this should be an enlightening moment that tells you maybe pay attention to some stuff outside of WWE as well. I think this is kind of funny that it's some sort of like kept secret, but I watch every episode of Dynamite and every episode of Collision. I watch every AEW PLE. I just don't cover it on this channel. To be fair, AEW makes it difficult to cover things because they like to be a little bit trigger happy with their copyright as well as their partners. So I have a really sour taste about making content about AEW. And on top of that, it does significantly worse in terms of analytics as anything compared to the WWE. But I'm here to tell you that AEW fucking rules. Like it's a fantastic product, but just like WWE, it has its ups and downs. But that show All In was genuinely fantastic. A little long, but fantastic. Sammy getting 3 arm taps and Goldberg and Jay only getting 1 is so annoying. WWE needs to at least get some consistency when it comes to checking these submissions. Dude, I love that people are mad at this because I'm so mad at it too. And it's such a nerdy, dumb wrestling mark thing to get upset about because really in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter. But God damn it, it matters to me. I want consistency in that too. Where could they possibly pivot with Seth being out? He and his group were so entangled in storylines with everyone. Well, I think that the biggest question left up in the air is certainly the Money in the Bank briefcase. I think many of us were expecting this thing to get cashed in on during John Cena and Cody Rhodes. Does that impact that at all? Does it impact Gunther's world championship reign because he teased potentially cashing in on Gunther? Where does this leave CM Punk? We all thought it was going to be CM Punk versus Seth Rollins at SummerSlam. And if it wasn't going to be CM Punk versus Seth Rollins, we thought it was going to be the return of Roman Reigns so that we could do Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins. Does that postpone Roman Reigns' return? If Roman Reigns still returns, who do they put him up against? Literally, so many things are just poof up in the air because of this injury. This also begs the question, who's going to step up in that position? Because now this leaves a huge gaping hole on Monday Night Raw called who is the top heel of Monday Night Raw? Who's going to step into that role? Who is WWE going to make the big bad guy of Monday Night Raw? Is it going to be B&B Security with the Oracle? I don't know, maybe. Could they raise Karrion Kross to that position? Maybe it's time to actually take advantage of Gunther and have him be the top big bad guy and have him feud against the big names like CM Punk. There's a lot of things where this can go. This really is a butterfly effect moment that could change the entire trajectory of 2025 and 2026. Maybe this forces the development of Braun Breaker significantly faster than we were expecting. Maybe we see a push for Braun Breaker happen in 2025 as opposed to it happening in 2026. So where do we pivot? I think the first thing that we need to do is figure out who's the big bad guy of Monday Night Raw now, because I don't think that they should just have both Braun and Paul Heyman be the top bad guy of Monday Night Raw. I think like we need a guy, and I think that should be Gunther. I mean, he's literally your world champion. And then who goes up against Gunther? Maybe LA Knight. Maybe this is where you shift CM Punk. Maybe now we're looking at CM Punk versus Gunther at SummerSlam. Yeah, listen, we are going to be throwing so many ideas at the wall right now with only 3 weeks to SummerSlam. They need to sort as many of those questions out on this episode of Monday Night Raw that's coming out. It would be a little bit different if we were building up to like a B tier PLE, but we are building to the second biggest show of the entire year and the biggest edition of said show, the first 2-night SummerSlam. So they need to come up with something quick. They need to sort things out immediately over there. There's also the possibility that this is a similar injury to the one that he got during his match against Jinder Mahal, which, yes, it was a meniscus tear, but not like so severe to the point where he needed to have immediate surgery. At the very least, it allowed him to continue to be part of storylines without being in ring as they built up to WrestleMania 40. Maybe it's something like that where we'll still have Seth Rollins being a key contributor every single week. We won't really know until we see what WWE does on Monday. Don't get me wrong, the Seth injury blows, but does it feel to anyone else that the stars are aligning here for an LA Knight World title run? Seth injured. Cody will be gone after SummerSlam to film Street Fighter. Roman now has no feud as he was meant to feud with Seth and his faction going into SummerSlam before he goes into filming too. Drew and Randy are busy. Only variable is CM Punk. Give LA Knight the title now. You know, that CM Punk variable is huge because if you ask me personally what WWE sees as their bigger, more SummerSlam worthy headliner, I think that they would go with Gunther versus CM Punk before they go with Gunther versus LA Knight. That being said, I do think that the trajectory for LA Knight was a world title run. I actually think that the Seth Rollins injury makes it more difficult for him to get there because it now opens CM Punk to have nothing to do, and I think that nothing will materialize into WWE putting him to go up against Gunther. If Seth doesn't get injured, I think LA Knight would have been going up against Gunther at SummerSlam. It could still very well happen, but in my mind, what I thought was going to happen at this show was that LA Knight was going to win at Saturday night's main event with the help of Roman or CM Punk. He goes off to face Gunther at SummerSlam, wins, and then gets cashed in on by the same guy that he just beat at Saturday night's main event, Seth Rollins. Obviously, that's my headcanon, my fantasy booking, but now that's completely out the window as well. But yeah, we'll see. So many things like we've already talked about are up in the air, and I do like your optimism about LA Knight, but I think that you're downplaying the only variable is CM Punk. That is a giant variable that would absolutely supersede an LA Knight push in WWE's eyes. Rollins injured. Is Brock Lesnar return imminent now? So there has been a lot of Brock Lesnar conversation points over the last couple of days. The biggest one was that I guess WWE shop brought back a lot of Brock Lesnar gear. A lot of people were thinking that maybe Brock Lesnar was the plan B that Seth Rollins was talking about. So yeah, I guess it's possible, but I never really did think that it was possible. I really thought that Brock Lesnar was going to lay low for the rest of his life with everything that's going on with his implications and allegations in the Vince McMahon lawsuit. But with how many stars and top players and top heels are injured on Monday Night Raw right now, I could see WWE and TKO just saying, fuck it, I guess we're bringing Brock Lesnar back. I actually genuinely see it. I hope for Seth a speedy recovery. However, if Seth's faction needs a temporary leader, Karrion's around. I actually hope that isn't the case. I kind of like the idea of this lone wandering piece of crap that is Karrion Kross just pulling the strings by himself from the darkness. I like what they're doing with Karrion, and honestly, I don't think that Braun and Braun need a new leader because they basically already have one there with Paul Heyman as is. And again, it's possible, again, fingers freaking crossed, that this is an injury that is a type of injury that still allows Seth Rollins to be part of weekly WWE TV. We'll see. And if Seth Rollins is able to be there, then obviously we don't need to really start doing interviews for who's going to take the new job here. If they keep Rollins off of TV until this injury is fully healed, he should return by cashing in. The surprise could top the heist of the century. The longer he's out, the bigger the surprise. I hope it's a quick recovery though. Yeah, obviously we're hoping for the quickest of possible recoveries, that he misses no time, but in the event that he does miss time, I love this. Yeah, his return is not just a return, but it's like the most impactful possible return that you can have. A cash in from a returning injured superstar is actually something that they've never done before in WWE with a Money in the Bank briefcase, at least not that I can immediately think of right now. That would actually be new, refreshing. It would be absolutely a shock. I love it. But that is trying to make the best out of the worst case scenario. I'm still hoping for the best case scenario that Seth Rollins doesn't have to take any time off. Bianca got a great reaction here after being booed in previous weeks. I think that fans needed time to miss her, especially after her incredible WrestleMania performance. She's definitely missed in the women's division. She needs to be back in the world title scene with a strong creative direction. Yeah, that was actually like really nice. I really liked that surprise. Honestly, the stuff that they did there with Bianca, Jade, and Naomi, I actually think was the strongest part of Saturday night's main event, which is kind of funny to think about considering the strongest part in my eyes was something that wasn't even advertised for on the show. It was nice hearing Bianca get a nice loud pop. It's cool that WWE is clearly going down the path of the big three triple threat. I think that this is a great first chapter in how we're going to develop this story. I don't know if the match is going to be at SummerSlam, maybe Clash in Paris, or maybe they'll be able to keep all three away from each other all the way up until WrestleMania perhaps. But yeah, I think Bianca Belair was sorely needed. I'm glad that she's back in the picture. I'm glad that she is being reinserted right into this feud, because one of the things that I actually didn't want was for her to return at the Battle Royal. I really wanted her to return in some way, shape, or form to this feud specifically, and I'm glad that they're doing it, and I love the way that they're doing it with her being a special guest referee. Jesse Ventura opened the show, and that's it. Kind of a letdown since he was actually good on commentary for last Saturday night's main event. Yeah, I felt like something was missing about this show aside from, like good quality wrestling matches, but one of them was absolutely Jesse the Body Ventura. He was one of my favorite things from the last episode of Saturday night's main event, but maybe he was a little bit too controversial and looked at things maybe with a bit too much of an obvious lens, like pointing out how stupid it is to walk out the front door of a steel cage to win the match. Maybe that left a little bit of a sour taste in Michael Cole's mouth after working with Jesse. I, for one, am excited to see what Jelly Roll can do in the ring after his training, and the setup for the tag match, especially on the show, has been great. I think people getting mad forget that we've had celebrities involved since WrestleMania 1, and they aren't all as bad as Travis Scott. Yeah, Travis Scott has definitely left a bad taste in people's mouths when it comes to celebrity involvement, and fair enough, because it was absolutely atrocious what they used Travis Scott for. But here's the thing, I agree with many of the things that you're saying. I think that the way that they set up the tag match was interesting. I'm also hyper curious as to what Jelly Roll will look like in the ring after his training and losing what somebody told me was near 200 pounds, which, by the way, good for him. And yes, you're also right, celebrities have been involved since the dawn of time in professional wrestling. wrestling, but I'm going to side on the side of people that are upset with this. Not because a celebrity is involved, not because it's Jelly Roll. The problem is that you have a 2-night SummerSlam and you're tying up 3 main eventers in Randy Orton, Logan Paul, and Drew McIntyre into this one celebrity tag team match. And I know there's somebody right now in the comments, how dare you put Logan Paul in the main event conversation with Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton? Listen, I'm just using what WWE is giving me. They use Logan Paul as a main eventer. Whether you like it or not, he's in the conversation. He's literally main evented more PLEs than both of these guys this year, okay? So just keep that in mind. But yeah, the fundamental problem here is that you've tied this many main event players that you could have done multiple different storylines with to one celebrity match, and it's now, there's more of a spotlight on this decision now, especially if Seth Rollins is out, because you're losing one of your main eventers there as well. Not a fan of this match happening in the first place, but I think that they're doing Randy and Jelly Roll versus Drew and Paul. They should have Logan and Drew win and have Randy turn heel by punt kicking Jelly Roll. No, don't do that, because that means that Randy Orton's historic heel turn will be with Jelly Roll. His heel turn needs to absolutely be on Cody Rhodes. I need him to punt Cody for this heel turn to really be diabolical. Him turning heel on Jelly Roll? No, I don't want that. With big names currently injured, such as Kevin Owens, Liv, and now Seth, Sammy written off storyline-wise, and top stars being part-timers such as Roman and Cena, WWE should pivot to a one-on-one match with Logan and Jelly Roll and create more impactful storylines for Drew and Randy instead. Yes, I agree with this, but I think cat's out of the bag. They've already announced this match, and maybe they just don't have trust in Jelly Roll doing a singles match, so they're starting with a tag match like they did with Bad Bunny. I don't know how you can pivot out of this now, right? There's only 3 weeks to SummerSlam. They've already announced this match. They've already put time into developing this storyline to get the proper official announcement. I think they're stuck with this. I do think it is an interesting thought experiment to wonder about the fact, would they have still gone through with this had the Seth Rollins injury happened before they made this announcement? Because I have to imagine they would have had to look at the roster and realize that losing Seth meant losing another top tier main event caliber match, and you're tying 3 main eventers that could be having top tier main event caliber matches to this one tag match. It's possible that they might pivot away from it, but I think it's going to be very, very difficult and certainly won't feel very natural and organic anymore. It'll certainly feel forced if they all of a sudden say, just kidding. I've heard Goldberg's son is training, so I think it would be cool that now that Goldberg is retiring, his son will now get vengeance for his dad and challenge Goldberg at SummerSlam. Well, I think that by the time that SummerSlam runs around, Gage Goldberg is going to be busy. He's a top tier, like Division 1 football player, so I don't think that this is going to be the case, but I absolutely could see a world where he could join the WWE through the NIL program that they have, where they have a bunch of college athletes be trained to be professional wrestlers through the Performance Center and then appear on NXT, Evolve, whatever it might be. That kid's a beast, all right? Did you see him when he jumped that barricade one so easily and athletically, and how he stepped up to Gunther? The dude was bigger and thicker than Gunther. I don't know how much of a potential NFL prospect Gage is. Maybe he isn't one at all, but I think at the very minimum, he's got a good side career path down the path of WWE if he wanted it. After Seth's injury, I think WWE should go for Roman versus Punk at SummerSlam and LA Knight versus Gunther, which I can see happening. Yeah, if Roman is returning, I think that this is probably the best available option here, and giving LA Knight the ability to go after the World Heavyweight Championship is also very nice, very refreshing. Yeah, I think that this is a natural pivot, but it all is up in the air as to whether or not Roman Reigns was meant to return in the first place. A lot of us had him returning tonight at Saturday night's main event. That did end up happening. Was he maybe back there and then they changed things because of the injury? Again, we'll also never know. Probably not, I have to imagine. I think, honestly, and I did this in my predictions video, I don't think Roman was ever meant to have a match at SummerSlam. I think it was meant to be CM Punk versus Seth Rollins, and that was going to be one of the big headliner matches for SummerSlam, which, again, begs the question that we were talking about earlier. What do you do with CM Punk now? And I think it's going to be Gunther. Maybe it'll be LA Knight, Gunther, and CM Punk. Maybe a triple threat. That could work too. If Seth Rollins Rollins' injury is serious, they should give the briefcase to Breakker. It would give him his main event push, and it's the best option for Money in the Bank now that Seth could possibly be gone from the group. I actually disagree. I want to see Braun Breakker earn his own stripes. I don't want him to just be given a Money in the Bank briefcase. I just don't think that that is the way to build one of your future pillars of the company. On top of that, I actually don't think that Money in the Bank is the best way to get us a Braun Breakker World Championship run. I want something bigger, something better. I want him to win the Rumble. I wanted him to win the Rumble and go off to face a champion Seth Rollins. Again, yeah, that's kind of rehashing Batista winning the Rumble and going on to face against Triple H at WrestleMania 21, but that shit worked. And Triple H and WWE, they love to run back their greatest hits, and they could have literally just ran that back. I just don't think that for the character that Braun Breakker is, that Money in the Bank is the play personally. Does WWE hate Charles Robinson? The guy's taking bumps left and right. Look, something tells me that WWE isn't the one making these decisions. I actually think that Charles Robinson likes taking these bumps at this point. I think the guy's a sadist that just likes to get destroyed by these guys. But yeah, huge shout out to Charles Robinson, first ballot Hall of Famer. He deserves a 3 times raise literally yesterday, please. Bianca should have been saved until tomorrow as a surprise. It was also kind of awkward when Nick Aldis kind of stumbled around the words and she just came out and stood there at the stage. I think best case scenario, I would agree with you, right? I would say that, yeah, I think it would have been a more impactful surprise to have Bianca Belair here, but WWE is struggling to create and generate buzz for Evolution. We know that from the ticket sales. We know that from the fact that people are just going to be tired of wrestling after watching potentially 11 hours across Great American Bash All In, Saturday night's main event. I know I'm tired. I'm still going to be watching, but I think they did this specifically to take advantage of the big platform that they were on to generate buzz for Evolution, a show that desperately needed it. So even though as a wrestling fan, I agree with you, I think that the shock and surprise would have been more impactful in the moment going into the match. I actually feel like this was a smart business decision to advertise this on the big platform on NBC, Saturday night's main event, when a lot of eyeballs are watching, to generate buzz and get more eyeballs to a struggling show Evolution. Randy, quote, "I should have never had you out there and put you in harm's way. That's my bad." 5 seconds later, "Let's do it, me and you together at SummerSlam." Yeah, I noticed that too. I started bursting out laughing during stream because this is one of those things that, like, if you start to dissect a little too much, you realize, oh yeah, this is stupid. All right, folks, thank you so much for watching today's episode of Hot Takes for Saturday night's main event. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care. Goodbye. Get out of here.